Welcome friends, this is a new session on the course School Organization, Administration and Management. The session includes Introduction, Meaning and Definition, History and Types of Yoga. Yoga is a science which emerged some long back years. Nowadays, the importance of this science increased all over the world. Let's go through the outskirts of the yogic science. Introduction to Yoga. Everyone desires good health, and it is the ultimate objective for utmost happiness in the life. Good habits are the essential factors for maintaining good health, and each and every one has to follow good health practices in their routine life. In fact, many health disorders are quite common to all. In case of major health problems, precautionary measures are plenty. Some people control their diseases like blood pressure, diabetes, acidity, asthma, rheumatism, etc. by taking medicines regularly. But such practice does not in any way completely eliminate the health disorder. On the other hand, it leads to several other adverse health problems. The continuous, systematic and regular practice of yoga is an effective tool to maintain good health and also has an effect to eliminate all the dreadful diseases from the human body. Though yoga has such a potential power which adds more health, more vigor, still most people have lack of knowledge of systematic practice of yoga. Most of them perform yogic exercises for a short period, and as and when health improves, they discontinue the yoga practice. For this reason, the effective result of yogic practices cannot be determined perfectly. Many scientists, doctors, psychologists, etc. all over the world are extensively studying the beneficial aspects of yoga, which give us encouraging results of positive health through yoga. Before knowing what is yoga, one has to be aware that yogic practices not only give positive health, but also help to develop concentration and strengthen the immune system. Meaning of yoga. Sage Patanjali, the author of an ancient book, Yoga Sutra, explains yoga as a method of controlling the mind. Some scholars regard yoga as an attempt of uniting oneself with the Supreme Spirit, that is Paramatma or God. Yoga is also described as a way of life for the harmonious development of the body, mind and soul. Very often, yoga is misunderstood and thought of in terms of certain exercises or asanas, that is postures, for training the body. This is a very narrow concept or meaning of yoga. It is not a physical act or exercise only, it is much more. The term yoga, which is derived from the Sanskrit word yuj, meaning union or to join. Yoga is a type of exercise in which you move your body into various positions, so in order to become more fit or flexible, to improve your breathing and to relax your mind. We shall now see some of the definitions of yoga. According to Patanjali, yoga is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. According to Aurobindo, yoga is a way or method through which internal and external facilities of man meets in totality and changes occur, and by which may achieve goal or feel his existence and may become the part of him. Main features of yoga. The most important feature of yoga is that it deals with the entire person, not a part of the person like other types of exercises. Yoga helps the practitioner to gradually progress at the intellectual, physical, moral and spiritual levels. Yoga is a system of physical, mental and spiritual culture to develop every human faculty so that every individual can lead a healthy, happy and long life. It provides eternal bliss. Yoga can be practiced by all, irrespective of faith, age, group, sex and wealth. Yoga is based on ethical and moral codes which are common to humanity. Yoga ideals helps in self-improvement process. Yoga consists not only of physical postures or asanas, control of the internal organs through kriyas and bandhas and breath control or pranayama, but also mental, intellectual and spirit discipline. Stages of yoga or eightfold path of discipline. The secret of yoga lies in the fact that it deals with the whole man and not with just one of his or her aspects. It is concerned with growth, physical, mental, moral and spiritual. It develops forces that are already within us. Beginning with improved health and added physical well-being, it works up slowly through the mental and spiritual. The transition is so gradual that we may not even be aware of it until we realize that a change in us has already taken place. It is concerned with the control over the body, the senses and the mind. It does not want to kill the body. On the other hand, it recommends its perfection. A sound mind needs a sound body. Sensual attachment and passions distract the body as well as the mind. They must be conquered. To conquer them, yoga recommends the eightfold path. Now let us see the 8 stages of yoga by sage Patanjali. Of this, the first is yama. This refers to the moral discipline of the individual and it includes the practices of brahmacharya or celibacy, non-stealing and non-receiving of gifts. Yama means abstention. It is a control of the body, mind and speech. It includes 5 vows. Ahimsa. Ahimsa or non-violence is the absolute absence of any form of injury to any living being. Next is Satya. Truth or Satya is to be exact both in mind and speech. That is, to speak things as they are and to remember them exactly as they are seen, heard or imagined. Asteya. Asteya or non-stealing includes both not taking or not stealing another's property and not having even a desire for it. Next, Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya or celibacy is the control of attachment in the enjoyment of the senses, especially those of sex. Aparigraha. Aparigraha or non-covetousness requires one not to accept or collect unnecessary things. All the mentioned yamas are necessary for the concentration of the citta. The second one is niyama. It means self-purification by practicing cleanliness, contentment, studying scriptures and surrendering oneself to God. Niyama is self-culture and includes internal and external purification of an individual. It includes 5 elements. Sauch. Sauch or cleanliness includes external cleaning through bath and pure diet, etc., as well as internal cleaning through sympathy, friendliness, happiness and detachment. Santosh. Santosh or contentment means satisfaction in whatever is attained by sufficient and suitable efforts. Next is Tapa. Tapa or penance includes practice of tolerance of the cold and heat. It requires various types of hard practices. Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya or study of religious scriptures is very useful for spiritual advancement. Hence, it is necessary principle of good conduct in yoga. Ishwar Pranidhan. The 5th niyama in yoga is Ishwar Pranidhan or to remember God and to surrender oneself to Him. This helps the aspirant in the practice of yoga. Now the third one is asana. This implies practicing certain body postures for acquiring health and developing steadfastness of mind. Asanas, that is exercises or postures, have been developed over the centuries and they help in strengthening every muscle, nerve and gland of the body. Steady and comfortable posture is known as asana. It helps in the concentration of citta and in the control of the mind. Yoga has prescribed various types of postures like Padma, Veer, Bhadra, Sirsha, Garuda and Mayura. These postures are very helpful in controlling the mind as well as other vital elements in the body. They also help in removing the sufferings due to cold and heat. As a matter of fact, posture is nothing but the control of the body. It also keeps the body free from diseases and makes it strong. By it, one can control the different external and internal organs in the body. Thus, yoga philosophers had the valuable insight to realize that mental control requires discipline of the body as well. The fourth is pranayama. It is a practice of controlling breath for strengthening the respiratory system, purifying blood and soothing the mind. It deals with regulation of inhalation, retention and exhalation of breath. There are three main steps of pranayama. Puraka. The first step in pranayama is puraka or inhaling, that is to take in as much air as possible. Kumbhak. After the maximum amount of air is taken in, the second stage in pranayama is kumbhak or to retain it for half of the time taken for inhaling. Rekaka. The third stage in pranayama is rekaka or to gradually exhale this air in almost the same time as taken in inhaling. The time taken in all these stages of pranayama gradually increases so that in due course the aspirant may control his or her breath, thus helping in the concentration of the citta. The fifth one is pratyahara. This is an attempt to free the mind from the domination or control of senses. Consists in withdrawing the senses from their objects. The introversion of the different sense organs by restraining them from their object is known as pratyahara. By practicing this, the aspirant can keep his or her mind undisturbed by worldly objects even while they live in this world. The practice of pratyahara requires very strong determination and repression of the senses. The 5 stages of yoga that were discussed are known as external means. The remaining 3 stages are known as internal means. The first 5 are merely preparatory to the next 3 which are directly concerned with yoga. The 6th one, dharana. This is concentration on a single object or point. Dharana refers to fixing the mind on the object of meditation like the top of the nose or the midpoint of the eyebrows or the lotus of the heart or the image of the deity. This is the beginning stage of samadhi. The next 7th one is dhyana. It refers to the concentration on the all-pervading divinity through practice. When the knowledge of an object of concentration is continued in a process, it is known as dhyana. This requires clear knowledge of the object. In dhyana, in the beginning, the aspirant knows only the different parts or forms of the object and only gradually realizes the whole of it. Thus, by dhyana, the aspirant has the real knowledge of the object along with discipline of citta through meditation. The 8th one is samadhi. This is the last stage of yoga. In this stage, the yogi merges himself with the divine spirit although he is alert and conscious. Samadhi means concentration. At this stage, the mind of the yogi is completely absorbed in the object of meditation. This is the culmination and the goal to which all the 7 stages discussed are only preparing steps. The stage of absolute identity, when the process of concentration and the object become one and identical, negating the differences between the subject and the object, is known as samadhi. In this stage, there is no separate cognition of the subject or the process of concentration, and the citta attains the form of the object. Thus, in this stage, the subject and the object as well as the process of concentration becomes one. Here we will have a discussion on 4 yogic paths and the history of yoga. 4 yogic paths for God realization. There are 4 paths to suit people of 4 kinds of temperament. They all lead to the same goal, the attainment of ultimate reality. Roads are different, but the destination is the same. The 4 paths that are indicated for the achievement of this ultimate truth from the different standpoints, the man of action, the man of devotion, the mystic man and the philosopher or the man of reason are respectively termed Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga and Jnana Yoga. The 4 paths are not antagonistic to one another, but on the other hand they are complementary. They only indicate that the different methods of the Hindu religion are in harmony with each other. Religion must educate and develop the whole man, his or her heart, intellectual, that is the head and hand. Then only will they reach perfection. One-sided development is not commendable. Karma Yoga removes mala, purifies the mind and develops the hand. Bhakti Yoga destroys vikshepa and develops the heart. Raja Yoga steadies the mind and makes it one-pointed. Jnana Yoga removes the wheel of ignorance. Avarana develops will and reason and brings in knowledge of the self. Therefore, one should practice the 4 yogas. As already discussed, the term yoga refers to the union between Jivatma and Paramatma, or the individual soul and supreme soul. The science that teaches the way of acquiring this knowledge is called Yoga Shastra. Hatha Yoga concerns with physical body and control of breath. Raja Yoga deals with the mind. Raja Yoga and Hatha Yoga are necessary counterparts of each other. No one can become a perfect yogi without a knowledge of the practices of both. Raja Yoga begins where properly practiced Hatha Yoga ends. Now we shall discuss the history of yoga. Yoga's history has many places of obscurity and uncertainty due to its oral transmission of sacred texts and the secretive nature of its teachings. The early writings on yoga were transcribed on fragile palm leaves that were easily damaged, destroyed or lost. The development of yoga can be traced back to over 5,000 up to 10,000 years old. Yoga's long, rich history can be divided into 4 main periods of innovation, practice and development. The pre-classical yoga. The beginnings of yoga were developed by the Indus-Saraswati civilization in northern India over 5,000 years ago. The word yoga was first mentioned in the oldest sacred texts, the Rig Veda. The Vedas were a collection of texts containing songs, mantras and rituals to be used by Brahmins, the Vedic priests. Yoga was slowly refined and developed by the Brahmins and Rishis or the mystic seers who documented their practices and beliefs in the Upanishads, a huge work containing over 200 scriptures. The most renowned of the yogic scriptures is the Bhagavad Gita, composed around 500 BC. The Upanishads took the idea of ritual sacrifice from the Vedas and internalized it, teaching the sacrifice of the ego through self-knowledge, action or karma yoga and wisdom or jnana yoga. Classical yoga. In the pre-classical stage, yoga was a mishmash of various ideas, beliefs and techniques that often conflicted and contradicted each other. The classical period is defined by Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the first systematic presentation of yoga. Written sometime in the 2nd century, this text describes the path of Raja Yoga, often called classical yoga. Patanjali organized the practice of yoga into an 8-limbed path containing the steps and stages towards obtaining samadhi or enlightenment. Patanjali is often considered the father of yoga, and his Yoga Sutras still strongly influence most styles of modern yoga. Next is the post-classical yoga. A few centuries after Patanjali, yoga masters created a system of practices designed to rejuvenate the body and prolong life. They rejected the teachings of the ancient Vedas and embraced the physical body as a means to achieve enlightenment. They developed Tantra Yoga with radical techniques to cleanse the body and mind, to break the knots that bind us to our physical existence. This exploration of these physical spiritual connections and body centered practices led to the creation of what we primarily think of yoga in the West, Hatha Yoga. The modern period. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, yoga masters began to travel to the West, attracting attention and followers. This began at the 1893 Parliament of Religions in Chicago, when Swami Vivekananda wowed the attendees with his lectures on yoga and the universality of the world's religions. In the 1920s and 30s, Hatha Yoga was strongly promoted in India with the work of T. Krishnamacharya, Swami Shivananda and other yogis practicing Hatha Yoga. Krishnamacharya opened the first Hatha Yoga school in Mysore in 1924, and in 1936 Shivananda founded the Divine Life Society on the banks of the holy Ganges River. Krishnamacharya produced 3 students that would continue his legacy and increase the popularity of Hatha Yoga: B.K.S. Iyengar, T.K.V. Desikachar and Pattabhi Jois. Shivananda was a prolific author, writing over 200 books on yoga, and established 9 ashrams and numerous yoga centers located around the world. The importation of yoga to the West still continued at a trickle until Indira Devi opened her yoga studio in Hollywood in 1947. Since then, many more Western and Indian teachers have become pioneers, popularizing Hatha Yoga and gaining millions of followers. Hatha Yoga now has many different schools or styles, all emphasizing the many different aspects of the practice. Types of yoga. Over the long history of yoga, different schools have emerged, and there are numerous examples of subdivisions and synthesis. It is common to speak of each form of yoga as a path to enlightenment. Thus, yoga may include love and devotion as in Bhakti Yoga, selfless work as in Karma Yoga, wisdom of existence as in Jnana Yoga, or an 8-limbed system of disciplines emphasizing meditation as in Raja Yoga. These practices occupy a continuum from the religious to the scientific. They need not be mutually exclusive. A person who follows the path of selfless work might also cultivate some knowledge and devotion. Some people, particularly in Western culture, pursue yoga as exercise divorced from spiritual practice. Other types of yoga include Mantra Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, Iyengar Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Integral Yoga, Nitya Yoga, Maha Yoga, Purna Yoga, Anahata Yoga, Tantra Yoga, Tibetan Yoga, etc. It is often helpful to check the teacher and lineage to be sure how these terms are being used. Another name for Raja Yoga or Royal Yoga is Ashtanga Yoga or 8-limbed yoga. But this should not be confused with the Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga developed by Sri Pattabhi Jois, which is a specific style of Hatha Yoga practice. Yoga isn't necessarily a one-size-fits-all practice either. Different types of yoga might be best for different people. A 20-year-old and a 70-year-old probably don't need the same things. Someone who is hypermobile and flexible doesn't need the same thing as someone who is muscular and stiff. The 9 types of yoga. First is Hatha Yoga. It's all about the basics in these slower moving classes that require you to hold each pose for a few breaths. In many studios, Hatha classes are considered a gentler form of yoga. However, the Sanskrit term Hatha actually refers to any yoga that teaches physical postures. It's a practice of the body, a physical practice that balances these two energies. So, in reality, it is all Hatha Yoga. Best for beginners. Because of its slower pace, Hatha is a great class if you are just starting your yoga practice. The second is Vinyasa Yoga. Get your flow on in this dynamic practice that links movement and breath together in a dance-like way. In most classes, you won't linger long in each pose and the pace can be quick, so be prepared for your heart rate to rise. Teachers will often pump music, matching the beats to the sequences of the poses. It is best for HIIT or high intensity interval training lovers. Intense exercisers might enjoy Vinyasa because of its faster pace. Runners and endurance athletes are also drawn to Vinyasa class because of the continuous movement. The third one is Ashtanga Yoga. If you are looking for a challenging yet orderly approach to yoga, try Ashtanga. It consisting of 6 series of specifically sequenced yoga poses. You will flow and breathe through each pose to build internal heat. The catch is that you will perform the same poses in the exact same order in each class. Some studios will have a teacher calling out the poses, while Mysore style classes, a subset of Ashtanga, require you to perform the series on your own. But don't worry, there will always be a teacher in the room to offer assistance if you need it. It is best for type A folks. If you are a perfectionist, you like Ashtanga's routine and strict guidelines. The fourth one is Kundalini Yoga. Yet, this physically and mentally challenging practice looks very different from your typical yoga class. You will perform kriyas, repetitive physical exercises coupled with intense breath work while also chanting, singing and meditating. The goal? To break through your internal barriers, releasing the untapped energy residing within you and bringing you a higher level of self-awareness. It is best for people looking for a spiritual practice. Those who are seeking something more than a workout may enjoy Kundalini due to its emphasis on the internal aspects of yoga, including breath work, meditation and spiritual energy. We shall now see some of the health needs of the child and yoga. The role of yoga for the health needs of the child are: 1. Need for concentration on studies. Yoga improves the power of concentration of the students in studies. 2. Need for improvement in memory. Yoga contributes to the improvement in memory. 3rd, need for improving grasping power. Yoga is very helpful in the improvement of the grasping power of the child. 4th, need for a sharp brain. Yoga helps in sharpening the brain power of the child. 5th one, the need for keeping the body trim and attractive. Yoga helps in removing fat. It keeps the weight normal. 6th one, need for keeping the body in proper proportion. Yoga enables a child to develop the body in a balanced way. 7th one, need for upkeep of the ductless glands. Yoga makes the ductless glands secrete their vital juices in proper quantities. And the 8th one, need for cleanliness of the body and mind. Yoga renders great help in developing purity of the body and mind of the child. 9th one, need for keeping body organs healthy. Yoga keeps body organs healthy. Let us now summarize some of the main points of yoga education. Yoga is a way of life. It enables us to have multi-dimensional approach to life. Yoga is art as well as science. The practice of yoga can help keeping the body and mind healthy. In the present day conditions, maintaining good health has become more difficult. Consequently, diseases are proliferating. If you therefore wish to keep good health, certain yogic principles have to be observed. If you follow these principles and practice yoga and yogasanas regularly, it would not be a problem to enjoy full strength and vigor. Since yoga deals with universal truth, its teaching is valid today as they were in ancient times. Yoga is a practical aid, not a religion. Yoga is a divine art which originated in India. Irrespective of caste, creed and religion, people practice yoga. Thank you for watching the session on yoga education. See you soon with a new topic. Till then, goodbye.